Any regrets?
No, I don't, because we did the right thing. We were there to protect Trump supporters from Antifa. We were there to protect and secure 2 permitted events on Capitol grounds where members of Congress were going to speak. The guys that went inside did not commit any crimes. In fact, they helped people. They helped the police and helped the people out.
He says he has no regrets. What do you say, Michael?
Yeah, I mean, this is what I would say to Stuart Rhodes. Go f*** yourself.
Wow. Well, incredibly strong words from former Capitol Police officer Michael Fanone following President Donald Trump's decision to offer sweeping pardons to nearly every January 6th rioter who had been charged with crimes related to that day or even convicted of crimes related to that day. Now, of course, the big controversy here is the fact that these sweeping pardons also apply to individuals who had carried out assaults on police officers on January 6th, and Fanone was among those police officers. He was assaulted on that day, but he isn't the only one who's furious about this. So yesterday, the largest police union in the United States took some time to condemn Donald Trump's decision to pardon all January 6 defendants despite endorsing him in the presidential campaign. And I want to be clear, Donald Trump does have the backing of law enforcement agencies and of the police unions. This is definitely one of the police unions that we're talking about here that backed Donald Trump, but they felt the need to speak out against his decision to pardon the violent offenders on January 6th. And I commend them for doing so, because I also agree that pardoning individuals who carried out acts of violence sends a bad message. And if we're against criminal coddlers on the left, and certainly the right wing loves to speak out against that, they should be against criminal coddling on the right as well. So let's get to the statement offered by the Fraternal Order of Police and the International Association of Chiefs of Police. They say that the IACP and FOP are deeply discouraged by the recent pardons and commutations granted by both the Biden and Trump administrations to individuals convicted of killing or assaulting law enforcement officers. The IACP and FOP firmly believe that those convicted of such crimes should serve their full sentences. I'm not really understanding what they're referring to in regard to Biden pardoning people who assaulted police officers, because Biden didn't do that. Biden did pardon members of his own family preemptively. We spoke out against that. We think that that sets a horrible precedent. He pardoned his son Hunter Biden when he had been on the record multiple times promising that he would not do so. So if they want to condemn him for that, that's totally fine, and I agree. But in regard to pardoning individuals who assaulted police officers, Donald Trump did that. More on that though, they say in the rest of their statement, when perpetrators of crimes, especially serious crimes, are not held fully accountable, it sends a dangerous message that the consequences of attacking law enforcement are not severe, potentially emboldening others to commit similar acts of violence. The IACP and FOP call on policymakers, judicial authorities, and community leaders to ensure that justice is upheld by enforcing full sentences, especially in cases involving violence against law enforcement. Now, on a local level, what conservatives point to in regard to soft on crime treatment toward individuals who assault police officers, they're usually talking about what happened during some of the riots that broke out during the BLM protests. But if there was soft on crime treatment toward those individuals, that was on a local and state level, not on a federal level. So maybe that's what they were referring to when they referenced Joe Biden. But again, what really spurred this statement and this reaction from the largest police union in the United States was the fact that Donald Trump decided to do these sweeping pardons rather than offer pardons on a case-by-case basis. That was what Trump had promised to do leading up to the election, and he didn't follow through on that. He just did the sweeping pardons. Now, about 140 officers, police officers from the US Capitol Police and DC Metropolitan Police were injured on January 6th, and the attack has been linked to people dying as a result. Now, we're also learning some pretty damning new details about why it is that Donald Trump decided to carry out sweeping pardons as opposed to pardons on a case-by-case basis. So President Trump's sweeping pardons for 1,500 January 6 criminals and defendants were a last-minute rip the bandage off decision to try to move past the issue quickly. White House advisors familiar with the Trump team's discussions tell Axios. So apparently 8 days before Inauguration Day, JD Vance went on Fox News and said that January 6th, people who have been convicted of crimes on January 6th, who assaulted police officers, obviously should not be pardoned. Originally, Trump's team actually did set out to do pardons on a case-by-case basis, just review each case and decide whether or not an individual deserves a pardon. But according to Axios, that process was considered onerous and time was running out heading into Inauguration Day. Trump wanted to pardon as many people as possible and get it over with. So he landed on clemency for everyone. Trump just said, F it, release them all, an advisor familiar with the discussion said. So because he wanted to be seen making a bold statement on day one of his presidency, day one in office, he decided to skip over individual cases and just issue a blanket pardon. And naturally, many of Donald Trump's diehard allies and supporters are absolutely thrilled about this. Some Republican lawmakers are also defending Donald Trump's decision without quite endorsing it. Take a look.
The president has the pardon and commutation authority. It's his decision, and I think what was made clear all along is that peaceful protests and people who engage in that should never be punished. The president's made his decision. I don't second guess those, and yes, it's kind of my ethos, my worldview. We believe in redemption. We believe in second chances. If you would argue that those people didn't pay a heavy penalty, having been incarcerated and all of that's up to you. But the president's made a decision. We move forward. There are better days ahead of us. That's what we're excited about. We're not looking backwards, we're looking forward.
Well, I said what I just said before, and that is we're not looking backwards, we're looking forward.
Leaders, do you have any concerns with Trump pardoning the January 6th prisoners, including the ones who attacked police?
Look, he talked about that during the campaign. Joe Biden said he wouldn't pardon a lot of the people that he did pardon yesterday. President Trump's a man of his word. He's going to follow through on his commitments.
Do you have concerns about it at all?
Well, if you look at what we're focused on, obviously today, our meeting was focused on getting our economy back on track.
Do you agree with President Trump's decision to pardon these violent people and releasing them from jail?
If they were truly violent, no, but do I know that they were? I don't know that.
What do you mean you don't know that? We're showing the footage on the air right now.
Bro, they're on camera. The B-roll is on air as you are denying that. That was amazing. That last clip in the compilation was amazing. But I want to just quickly go back to Speaker Mike Johnson saying, we're looking forward. We're looking forward. We just want to move on. That's an interesting case to make, especially since Mike Johnson just announced that he's forming a new congressional committee to investigate January 6th and debunk any false narratives. Can we just move on? I get that our politicians are hyper-focused on performative politics, theater, rather than actually legislating, passing laws that need to be passed, dealing with reforms that need to happen. But the idea that they're moving forward, when in reality, they're creating a brand new congressional committee to investigate January 6th, just this time on the right-wing side, is insane to me. One clarification I want to make, there is a possibility that the police union, in referencing Biden, was specifically referencing the fact that he commuted the sentence of Leonard Peltier, who was imprisoned for killing 2 FBI agents back in the 1970s. He had been in prison since then. He's in his 80s now, and Biden decided to commute his sentence. I'm guessing maybe that's who they were referring to, but I wanted to quickly make that clarification in case that is what they were saying. But let's move on to other Republicans who are actually condemning Donald Trump's move in pardoning the violent offenders associated with January 6th. Let's take a look.
I do not support the pardons if they were given to people who committed violent crimes.
I've got concerns with any pardons for people who did harm to a police officer, full stop. And I've also got serious concerns with all of the pardons by President Biden.
I'm uncomfortable with all of it.
Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, who told me, I am a big back the blue guy. I think people who assault police officers, if they do the crime, they should do the time.
I mean, I agree with those lawmakers. And by the way, I would agree with any lawmakers who release statements like that in regard to a Democratic president who has pardoned or commuted the sentences of individuals on the left who assaulted police officers. We have to draw a clear distinction between violent criminals and those who might have broken the law but didn't engage in violent acts. I think there is a distinction there that's really important to focus on. And it seems the majority of Americans actually agree with the dissenting Republicans, because a Reuters Ipsos poll that closed on Tuesday found that 58% of respondents felt that Trump should not have pardoned those convicted of crimes for January 6th. Another poll from before Donald Trump took office yielded very similar results. Let's take a look at this. This is a graph put together by NPR, and this poll conducted earlier this month found that 62% of Americans disapproved of Trump pardoning people involved in the January 6th insurrection, 89% of Democrats and 62% of independents, and even 30% of Republicans disapproved of the pardons. Nonetheless, Trump continued to defend his decision when pressed about it last night. Take a look.
You would agree that it's never acceptable to assault a police officer,
Sure.
right? So then if I can, among those you pardoned, DJ Rodriguez, he drove a stun gun into the neck of a DC police officer who was abducted by the mob that day. He later confessed on video to the FBI and pleaded guilty for his crimes. Why does he deserve a pardon?
Well, I don't know. Was it a pardon? Because we're looking at commutes and we're looking at pardons. Okay, well, we'll take a look at everything. But I can say this, murderers today are not even charged. You have murderers that aren't charged all over. You take a look at what's gone on in Philadelphia, take a look at what's gone on in LA, where people murder people and they don't get charged. These people have already served years in prison, and they've served them viciously. It's a disgusting prison. It's been horrible. It's inhumane. It's been a terrible, terrible thing.
I want them all to be in prison. I don't want to, like, it's ridiculous to look at pardons or soft on crime treatment for members of the right in order to justify soft on crime treatment by members of the left. How about it's all bad? How about people who pose a threat, a public safety threat to society, should probably be locked up, should probably face the full consequences of the acts that they engaged in. So I just, look, for me, that's the clear distinction. I'm not one of these people who wants to like imprison nonviolent offenders for the rest of their lives for nonviolent offenses. And that includes people who might have walked into the Capitol building following, those rushing into it and breaking in. I just, if someone has carried out acts of violence, there needs to be a clear message sent to them and to society at large that it's unacceptable. And so pointing to soft on crime treatment in some of the liberal run cities across the country doesn't justify, in my opinion, what Donald Trump did in issuing these sweeping pardons of individuals who carried out acts of violence against police officers on January 6th. That's my view on it. Obviously, the majority of Americans, based on the polling, also agree with me. And I'm really happy to see that, because I don't think it's healthy to have the type of culture that justifies violence as long as it's carried out by your preferred political group.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.